Okay, guys, by now I'm sure that you have all read the article from page 6, basically confirming the update in Louie Ruelas and Vanessa Reiser's legal case when it comes to the restraining order. So I'm just going to read a small portion of the article that came out in page 6. So, in essence, the court held by the filing of the restraining order was akin to a publicity stunt. Laraka, who is Louie's lawyer, said that Louie was completely vindicated today and looks forward to putting this all behind him. We'll get back to that in a moment, guys, the completely vindicated, because I find that that statement right there is a little bit misleading, but we'll get to it later. So the lawyer continues and says, "We thank the court for its lengthy, well-reasoned, and factually supported opinion." And then we have Vanessa Reiser's attorney, which is Doug Anton. And of course, everyone is talking about Doug representing R. Kelly and losing R. Kelly's case. At this point in time, obviously, he is a criminal lawyer and he has represented many people. Kim D is also a friend of Doug Anton, and I believe she is the one, not I believe, I know that she is the one that referred him to Vanessa Reiser to help with her case. Okay, so and in the case of R. Kelly, I just wanted to do a little bit of a sidebar here. Doug Anton actually stepped back in 2020 from R. Kelly's case. He was no longer an official attorney on record. He was helping a little bit behind the scenes, but he was no longer actively trying his case. So I just thought that I would put that in there. Now, when it comes to Doug Anton, he said that meanwhile, everyone is saying that Louie was vindicated, but he also feels like his client, which is Vanessa Reiser, was equally vindicated. So he says, "Our goal was always her protection by exposing the truth about Louie's offensive conduct." And then he says, "Indeed, for her protection, we were obsessed." Basically, he is piggybacking off of the comments made by the judge, because the judge apparently said to Vanessa that she was obsessed with Louie and obsessed with his family. So Vanessa's attorney said, yes, we were obsessed for her own good, for her own protection, with proving that Louie did this invasive thing so that he never does it again. And then he continues and says, Vanessa feels completely vindicated and now protected by outing him for his offensive conduct. And I think I understand what he means by that. Whether she won the case or not, at the end of the day, there will be forever a public record of this, right? Somewhere in the annals of the court. So by that, he's probably saying that, yes, you know what, even though the judgment was not rendered in our favor, we are still happy with the result because we were still able to expose Louie's behavior when it comes to Vanessa Reiser, right? So for those of you that are not familiar with what transpired, just a brief recap here. At some point in time, Vanessa is a therapist and she specializes in narcissistic abuse. And then at some point in time, there was like a female client that came up to her and started like asking her and probing about very personal questions about Vanessa's like abuser. And she's like, oh, what about your abuser? Was he like this? Was he like that? Like, do you still love him? If he was to break up with Teresa, would you take him back? That kind of stuff, right? And then eventually down the line, I guess, Vanessa or her firm went to take or collect a payment from that patient, and the credit card bounced. Like, I don't know if it was a check or a credit card, but it was declined. So then Vanessa looked into it a little bit more, and they were able to tie that particular person to the people of Bodito, who was extensively mentioned on the show for being friendly, or a good friend of Louie, and also his private investigator. So there's something very interesting here about Bodito in the article from page 6. It says, Vanessa Reiser, who dated Louie from 2018 to 2020, just before he married the Real Housewife of New Jersey star Teresagiudice, claimed earlier this year that the businessman, which is Louie, hired a private investigator to spy on her at work. And then the name of Bo Dietl comes into play in all of that, right? So then it says here that Bo Dietl previously denied to Page Six, and I think there was even a video, an audio of him saying, I never looked into any of the cast members. If you guys remember at the end, at the finale, Louie says Bo Dietl has information on every single one of you, and then Bo Dietl got upset because he was like, hey, why are you like using my name for that kind of stuff? I never looked into any housewife, right? And then Bo said to Page Six that he never ever looked into the cast. He denies that. He's being very adamant about that. However, when Page Six asked Bo Dietl if he had looked into Vanessa Reiser, Bo Dietl declined to comment, okay, which is pretty telling, and I will tell you why, just in case we are having a little bit of amnesia when it comes to that whole thing. It's been going on for quite some time. So a few months ago, Bo Dietl did an interview with David Yontev on Behind the Velvet Rope. The interview is available on YouTube. And at some point in time, I can't remember which episode it was because, you know, he releases them in section. So I can't remember which clip it was, but I'm pretty sure it's still available on YouTube. And Bo Dietl says, well, David asked him the question, like, you know, have you looked into the cast and all of that? And Bo says, no, I've never looked into any of the housewives around that kind of time. Louie has never hired me to do any of that dirty work. But he was also saying to David, I'm not going to tell you that I have never investigated anyone else for Louie, that I have not conducted any other investigations for Louie. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I haven't looked into housewives, right? And he kept on saying that all like over and over again. He says, I'm not saying that I have not been hired for other cases for Louie. He did say that during that interview with David Yontev. And also at the reunion, I believe it was part 3. I'm not sure if it's part of the extended version on Peacock or if it was just in the normal excerpts. But anyways, at some point in time, Louie even says to Andy that he has hired Bo Dietl to look into a person that was harassing his life. That's actually the term that he used at the reunion. And then when Andy asked him who that person was, he said that it was his ex. I believe him and Teresa said it together that it was his ex, and they even added that the ex was in contact with Margaret. So those are not my words. Those are the words from Louie and Teresa at the reunion last season. Okay, so they admitted that they have enlisted the services of Bo Dietl to look into a person that was harassing their lives, and that person was Louie's ex-fiance. And then when Bo Dietl went on David Yontev's podcast, he also said, you know, on multiple occasions that he had not looked into the housewives. However, he cannot say that he was never hired to complete an investigation on other people for Louie Ruelas.